Alright, what's happening everybody? I'm your man Akeen and welcome to today's vlog. Shocking Saturday this past weekend of week 8 of the college football season, and it was a great weekend, and I underestimate some of the key matchups this week. Starting with my game of the week, Wisconsin at Michigan State. It was a great slugfest in that second half in which the Michigan State pulled a last second victory over Wisconsin 37-31 due to a Hail Mary pass from Kirk Cousins to Keith Nichols. Nichols has a good career in college football, an interesting career at that. He started his career at Oklahoma, but lost the starting position to Sam Bradford, who eventually won the Heisman Trophy and went #1 overall to the NFL. So Nichols decided to go to Michigan State and try to earn that starting position for the Spartans between him and Kirk Cousins, but Cousins ended up outbeating him. Now Nichols, he decided to stay at Michigan State and convert to the receiver position, and he ended up catching one of the most memorable passes in Spartan history, and that was a good game victory over #6 Wisconsin, ruining Wisconsin's chances of making it to that national title game. Now, based in this matchup, the Big Ten title is still in hand. Wisconsin is still in the Big Ten race for the championship, even though they had a loss to Michigan State. Michigan State is obviously in it with just one loss, and Nebraska, who's going to be playing against each other this week, and this is going to be a key matchup. I'm going to let you know on Wednesday who I think is going to win that matchup. Now, there was another big upset, the real upset game of the week. Oklahoma at home against Texas Tech. Texas Tech came to Norman 28 points under as the underdog against Oklahoma, but quarterback Seth Dodge ended up having a big game, a lot of touchdown passes, pulling off the 41-38 game victory. Now this was an interesting matchup, and I was very shocked of the Oklahoma defense. They were actually probably one of the top defenses in the nation compared to a couple other schools. There was a lot of arguments on who had the best defense in college football: Alabama, LSU, or Oklahoma. Now obviously with this matchup, Oklahoma's definitely out of the picture of who has the best defense. Now they should still have a shot of winning the Big 12 championship, but I was shocked in this matchup at home, and they ended up losing. Plus a couple of miscues on offense was the key to Texas Tech's victory. And I'm not going to hate on the Raiders, who now are part of the top 25 in the nation, actually ranked 25th. Now Oklahoma, they still have Oklahoma State as the season finale, and Oklahoma State is now the new #3 team in the nation. Oklahoma dropped 6 slots to #9, and Wisconsin dropped 9 slots to #15, and it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to see later on in the season. A couple of other matches that I talked about this week, my games of the week. Another upset, West Virginia was at Syracuse. West Virginia was actually the favorite to win the Big East championship, but they ended up pulling a second loss again, 49-23, due to a brilliant defensive effort from the Orangemen. They ended up they just kept attacking Geno Smith, the quarterback for West Virginia, so many times, and they kept hurrying him so many plays, hitting him as he was throwing the football, a couple of sacks that they converted, and it was just a great defensive effort from Syracuse, stopping West Virginia and ruining their Big East season. Now the Big East championship is still intact with a couple of other teams. Syracuse is actually in the race to win a Big East championship with this big win over West Virginia. Now my upset pick of the week, I picked Miami over Georgia Tech, giving Georgia Tech a second straight loss, in which they did beat Georgia Tech 24-7 due to another great defensive effort from the Miami defense, stopping that triple option threat that Georgia Tech has, and they ended up holding them to 134 yards rushing. Big game for Miami, showing why I said that they are a lot better than that 3-2 record that they had a couple of weeks ago. They have a lot of talent, they have good speed, and they can keep up with a lot of teams in the ACC conference. Now this is going to be interesting because Georgia Tech has Clemson later on in the season, and they're looking forward to ruining Clemson's season. Now speaking of Clemson, they ended up playing North Carolina last Saturday, and they ended up killing them 59-38. Quarterback Taj Boyd tossed for 5 touchdown passes, one to Sammy Watkins. Sammy Watkins and Taj Boyd are actually in a race of who's going to win that ACC Player of the Year. Both these two players are having a spectacular season. Right now, I'm going to have to give it to Taj Boyd due to his leadership at the quarterback position for Clemson. Clemson is still undefeated. They're actually ranked 5th in the nation. Now they're part of the top 5. They're having a big season, a surprising year, the real sleeper of the ACC, and the only team that they have to worry about later on in the season is Georgia Tech that I mentioned earlier, also the ACC championship. They're still in the hunt to make it to that national championship hunt. A couple of other big games, Stanford ended up killing Washington 65-21 due to their running game. They ended up having 446 yards rushing. big game, and it showed that Stanford is a more of a balanced, complete team, especially having a good running game and a good defense. They're in the top 10 in scoring defense as well, as I mentioned before. Now, having the good running backs and a good tandem actually brings balance to that offense, and it all keeps eyes off of quarterback Andrew Luck. People are forgetting that they do have good runners. Stephon Taylor last season was a 1,000-yard rusher, and a lot of people forgot about him. He had a big game, over 100 yards, and plus he has a couple other running backs behind him, and I think Stanford is actually still in the hunt to play for that national championship, who are now ranked 6th in the nation. Another game that I mentioned, Cincinnati ended up edging South Florida 37-34 due to a last final drive from Zach Collaros. He orchestrated a great drive, pulling off the 37-34 victory. And also, I mentioned before, Oklahoma State, who's going to play Oklahoma as a season finale, they ended up having the scare with Justin Blackman getting a big head blow. He was actually out for most of the game in that second half, but running back Joseph Randall ended up lifting the Cowboys, having 138 yards rushing and 3 scores, in which Oklahoma State won 45-24. Also, I mentioned before a weak game that I talked about, Arizona at home hosting UCLA, killing them 48-12. Now, based on these upsets, these key upsets, the rankings change in college football. Now, there's still the top 2 teams, LSU and Alabama. LSU's number 1, Alabama's number 2. That has not changed, but the new number 3 is Oklahoma State. Number 4 is Boise State. Number 5 I mentioned is Clemson. Number 6 is Wisconsin, and at number 6 is Stanford. I apologize. And also, Kansas State is now part of the top 10, as well as Arkansas, who also has just 1 loss in the season. Let's not forget about Kansas State. Now, based on the remaining schedule, they have a lot of tough games ahead of them against Texas, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. And those 3 matchups, we're really going to see how good this Wildcat team really is. If they ended up pulling an undefeated season, they might make it to the national championship. Based on that Oklahoma loss, the path changed for some teams in the national championship hunt. I mentioned on my last video that the championship should be between LSU, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. I actually had Oklahoma going all the way, winning the national championship, but based on this loss, they're looking to ruin Oklahoma State's season and open the gaps for other teams like Stanford and Clemson, who are now in that hunt for that national championship. And I cannot wait to see what happens later on in the season. This is a great year, as always, in college football. And the next time I'm going to catch you guys is on Wednesday, where I will give you my Week 9 key matchups and predictions of the college football season. Thank you for watching today's vlog. From Sports News Insider, I'm your man, Akeem McCall. Be easy.